Hi guys, and welcome back to another Tech Minds video. So I was recently given this awesome Yaesu G-1000DXC antenna rotator and controller from a very good friend of mine, Chris M6KZT. And while it initially had some problems, I did manage to get it working. Now, if you're interested in seeing what I had to do to get this rotator fully working, then wait till the end of the video if you're interested. However, this video is actually going to be about adding Wi-Fi control to the G-1000DXC controller, meaning you do not need to actually use the control unit. You can simply point and click on a web page or use automated software to control where your antennas point. Now, to achieve this, you can use one of these. This is the WRC from AF6SA. The WRC, or Wi-Fi rotor controller, is a little board containing 3 relays and a little ESP32 Wi-Fi module, which is actually the logic behind this solution. Now, the WRC can also be used as a standalone controller along with an OLED screen and control buttons. The display will show the current heading, and then you can use the left and right buttons to change position. The WRC can be wired to a variety of rotor controllers, and there are other versions of this board which caters for other models of rotors, also available on the AF6SA website. Now, as this has an inbuilt web server which presents as an HTML page to control the rotor, you can even use a mobile phone or tablet, or if you have the correct router settings, you could even use it away from home if you're using your radios remotely. Now, it also supports AC and DC driven motors, and wiring information can be found in the manual. Most rotor controllers will need to be wired actually inside the controller, and the user's manual does cover how to wire it up. However, with this Yaesu G-1000DXC, there's actually a little DIN socket on the back, and now we can use this to connect the WRC directly to it. Now, this means I will not even have to take apart that controller to get this to work. Now, on this slide that I put together, we can see the WRC on the left, with each of the relay pins numbered 1 to 3. On the right side of the WRC, in a vertical fashion, we have another 4 connections, which is for the position pot. Now, the DIN socket diagram on the right of this slide is the port that's on the back of the actual rotor controller. We just have to create a cable that connects to the relevant connections on the WRC. For example, pin 2 on the DIN socket goes to the CCW relay, pin 1, and then pin 4 of the DIN goes to the plus pot connection, which is on that vertical set of connections on the WRC. Now, CW stands for clockwise and CCW stands for counterclockwise if you didn't know. Pin 5 of the DIN includes the outer shield. That then connects to CW pin 2, CCW pin 2, minus pot and 0 volts on the WRC. You need all of these connections in place for this to work. On the lower left of that WRC board, you'll notice a power in. Now, this is so that we can power the WRC board independently. Now, you can check the manual for voltage requirements, but it does work well with either a 12-volt battery or a 13.8 volt shack power supply. Now, luck be have it, I actually had a cable lying around, which had the correct connector and the correct amount of wires. I just needed to figure out which colour wire goes to which pin of the DIN plug. I then tinned the end of each of the wires just so they had a nice solid connection, then we tighten them up into the block connectors on the WRC board. Now, this might look a little bit confusing as there appears to be lots of wires there, but as long as you follow the guide, it's actually quite easy, especially if you're using the DIN connection just like I am on the back of this rotor controller. I think it's probably a little bit harder if you're going to be wiring this module actually inside the controller, but for me, I just didn't need to. Now, I do eventually put this board into a box, but now it's time to test it out. Here we have the controller, the rotor, and the WRC board laid out on a bench in my garage. I'm just using a Wi-Fi camera here to take a look at it while setting my shack and controlling the rotor through the WRC board using the web interface. As you can see here, where I click and point on that HTML page, the rotator will start turning to that specific point. You can even see the direction indicator on the controller there moving after I've clicked a position on the HTML page. There's also other bits of software which will control the rotator using Ethernet. Now, once you have the WRC wired up, you will want to connect to its internal web page. Now, the WRC creates its own ad hoc Wi-Fi network, and once connected, you can actually configure it to connect to your home Wi-Fi network instead. Now, this makes communication from other third-party software a lot easier too if it's connected to your home network. Now, there are lots of settings you can alter and change within the WRC webpage. Now, some of those will be relevant, now some won't be, but it all depends on the type of rotator and controller that you're using. Now, if you are using this system from outside of your home network, i.e. you want to use it truly remotely, then there is a username and password section that allows you to configure authentication. And of course, this will stop any unauthorized access to your rotator controller. Now, the reason for getting this rotator up and running is because I have some cool projects that I have been working on and that I'll want to show you in some upcoming videos. Now, these will be related to using an extremely long 23cm Yagi. Now, that's 1.2 GHz, not 23 centimeters in actual length. Now, at the start of this video, I mentioned that I actually had to repair this rotator, so let me tell you about that. So this rotator had not been used in quite some time, and I guess it had been left on its side in the garden. Unfortunately, water had got into the inside and caused the casing and the ball bearings to rust away. Now, I had already taken the top of the rotator off, so we can only see the rusty set of lower ball bearings here. These were pretty much solid, no movement whatsoever, and literally no hint of any grease, so these had to be fixed. Now, the first thing that I done was to order some rust remover and some metal bristled brushes, although luckily the rust on the ring here was pretty much just surface rust. Now, to save some money, I attempted to start cleaning those ball bearings, trying to remove the rust and bring them back to their former glory. Now, there are 98 bearings in total used in this rotor, 49 on the bottom race and 49 on the top race. Well, after a couple of hours of cleaning these ball bearings by hand, it became apparent that it would be far easier to just buy some more ball bearings, as quite a lot of these original ones were not even round anymore. The rust had pretty much just eaten them away. Now, with the new bearings ordered, I took the time to clean the parts that I could, and using the metal brushes on this circular race support, it appeared the rust came off quite nicely, without having to leave any of that rust remover gel on for too long. Now, the next day, I headed outside to the garage to make a start on cleaning the inside of the rotor. Again, this looked a lot worse than it was. Using the wire brush really got rid of all that rusty dust, and, well, after a bit of elbow grease, it soon started to look pretty good. I also had to make sure there was no metal debris within the teeth, as if there was, then that could damage the cog that connects to the main electrical motor. Now, with the top part done, it was now time to move on to where the ball bearings actually sit. Again, these little channels were extremely dirty and rusty. Nothing that the rust remover gel and a wire brush could not handle though. Now, when I first tested this rotor, before realising it had seized with rust, the rotor only moved a few centimetres before grinding to a halt. So before I put it all back together, I wanted to make sure the motor and cogs inside were still working as they should. So with it connected to the actual controller and powered up, luckily all was okay. And I even ended up putting a bit more fresh grease on those cogs. With the new ball bearings arrived, I laid a track of grease around the ball race and then carefully pushed the ball bearings into place. Now, the grease holds them in place, which is actually quite handy, as I did not want to drop any of these 49 balls. Now, I've done the same for the ring that pulls up underneath the rotor, laying a thick line of grease and then carefully placing those balls. Now, I didn't really film putting it back together fully, and this is not a tutorial on how to fix your rotator, but I just wanted to show you this in case you've never seen inside a rotator before. Now, I find this actually quite enjoyable to fix, and it was quite satisfying to see it all working once I'd done the work. And as you know from the first half of this video, it now works perfectly, and it's now ready to be put up into the air with some rather large Yagi antennas. Even better, I can control it from my computer, so I don't even have to lay a run of rotator controller cable from where it's located to the actual shack. That's one less hole in the wall. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching. I thank you for watching my videos, and I hope you continue to enjoy them. Until the next video, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.